Call order of regular meeting, Goodyear City Council, 22 January 2007. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation led by Councilmember Scott.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join us in prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask you to guide this elected body to make the most appropriate decisions for this community. We also ask you to look after our staff as they go about their daily chores and to offer the same protection to our armed forces wherever they may be. For this and all else, we thank you. Amen.
Amen. We apologize for the delay in starting the meeting. At our previous meeting, in interest of fairness to all parties, we needed to complete it. So we did, but we delayed you about a half hour. I apologize for that. All council members are in attendance. Ask for approval of the draft minutes of a special meeting held on January 8th and minutes of a regular meeting on January 8th. Could I have a motion to approve them?
So moved. Second.
Motion from Councilmember Souza, a second from Councilmember Antoniak. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
7-0, unanimous approval of the minutes. There are no expenditures to ratify or approve, no communications. Unless there are communications or commendations on the part of any council member. Does any council member wish to apprise the public of the current events? Any current events? Councilmember Holland?
This morning I attended the West Valley Alliance group. Education is the subcommittee that I'm on. I'm probably the only one on there that has never been in education. But the interesting thing is I have seen the output of the schools in the business world, and that's where my contribution comes in. And I think we're really making some headway here in the West Valley, and I'm proud of this group that I've been working with. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any communication from the city manager?
Not at this time, sir.
Okay, opportunity now for any citizen to comment or address the council on any subject which is not on this evening's agenda. Not on this evening's agenda. Would anyone wish to comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda, and I'll ask the city clerk to read consent items by title only, please.
Item A, council will consider adopting resolution 07-1115 declaring the International Fire Code 2006 edition subject to certain amendments to be a public record. A2, council will consider adopting ordinance 07-1057 amending chapter 5 of the Goodyear City Code providing for the adoption of the International Fire Code, certain appendix chapters, 2006 edition, by reference unless as specifically adopted herein, prescribing regulations governing conditions hazardous to life and property from fire or explosions and uses or operations, establishing an office of the fire marshal and providing officers therefore and defining their powers and duties, amending Article 5-3 of Chapter 5 of the Goodyear City Code to provide for penalties for violations of the codes and standards adopted in this ordinance, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for separability, and providing for an effective date. Item B, council will consider approving a request from Michael Reyes representing Nakama LLC for a Series 12 liquor license number 120-76913 for Nakama Sushi Restaurant and Lounge located at 13215 West McDowell Road, Suite D3. Item C, council will consider authorizing the city manager to award a design-build contract with Brown & Caldwell Constructors in the amount of $12,476,292 to complete Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the permanent capital improvement enhancements to the Bullard Water Campus reverse osmosis water treatment plant, including obtaining all required permits, design, providing all material, equipment, and labor necessary for the project. Item D, council will consider authorizing the city manager to modify the agreement with the Estrella Joint Committee, contract CON-CX-0758-06, to increase the monthly reimbursement for right-of-way landscape maintenance. Item E, council will consider approving and entering into the Second Amendment to pre-funding and reimbursement agreement concerning the payment of fees and costs pertaining to the design and construction of public infrastructure. Second Amendment, an amendment to the agreement among the City of Goodyear, Westcor Goodyear, LLC, Westcor, and Wood Patel and Associates, Inc., in order to further the mutually beneficial objectives of these parties for the timely development of the McDowell Road Commercial Corridor. Item F, council will consider reappointing Brian Dalkey, Gary Gelzer, and Eric Cornwell, and appoint Karen Craver as representatives of the City of Goodyear to the Phoenix Goodyear Airport Master Planning Advisory Committee for a one-year term in positions provided for by City of Phoenix Aviation Department. Item G, council will consider approving the final plat for Parcel 1 in Province of Estrella Mountain Ranch, subdividing 47.3 acres into 4 tracts, generally located at the southwest corner of Estrella Parkway and Cotton Lane in the amended planned area development district for Village 10 of Estrella Mountain Ranch Phase 2, subject to stipulations. Item H, council will consider approving the final plat for Parcel 2 of Providence at Estrella Mountain Ranch, subdividing 13.9 acres into 43 single-family residential lots in 7 tracts, generally located at the southwest corner of Estrella Parkway and Cotton Lane in the amended planned area development district for Village 10 of Estrella Mountain Ranch Phase 2, subject to stipulations. Item I, council will consider receiving and filing the November 17th through 18th, 2007 City Council Advance Report as submitted by L.L. Decker and Associates.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion, please?
Motion to accept the consent agenda, items A through I as read by the clerk.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Scott and a second from Councilmember Lord. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Cavalier.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Scott.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to the business part of our agenda. We have 2 items on our agenda this evening. The first one is a resolution to guide Goodyear's state lobbying activities, and Mario Saldamano will present. Mario.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, staff is seeking direction and approval on the city's proposed 2007 state legislative agenda. The agenda defines the city's priorities and will help guide the city's lobbying efforts this session. As you know, the city is in the process of recruiting for an intergovernmental programs manager who will be responsible for overseeing the federal and state local legislative policies.
Sorry, Mayor, could you speak up? We're having a little.
Is that on? Okay.
The city is in the process of hiring NIG, but that will oversee the legislative affairs of the city. In the meantime, the city continues to contract with Larry Pike of the Chartwell Group that will provide a full presence at the legislature during the session and assist with legislative affairs. I have a brief PowerPoint that summarizes the issues in your staff report. And just to begin with, there are 2 core principles that form the backbone of the League's legislative program, and that is the preemption of local authority and state shared revenues. Just a quick summary on the governor's budget. It's $11.4 billion budget for 08. State shared revenues is untouched at 15% of the state income tax. It's $500 million for transportation acceleration projects. And that's by extending the bonds from 20 to 30 years. No further tax cuts are being proposed. Last year, the $545 million in tax cuts went into effect, and there's no deposit needed in the rainy day fund. The impact fees legislation, the Central Arizona Home Builders Association ran a legislation in the previous session that would have made sweeping changes in the way that cities administer impact fee programs. The governor vetoed the bill, but made it clear in her statement that that the parties, the cities, would work with the Home Builders Association to introduce legislation of this session. And the League has been working with stakeholders, and we'll be meeting with President B this week on a language that will address the interests. So the city supports efforts to seek passage of this legislation and oppose preemption of cities and towns that develop and administer impact fee programs. Title 34, the Associated General Contractors have been summoned by several of their members to take legislative action on behalf of Title 34. Title 34 contains the rules that state and local governments must follow when they secure bids for construction and maintenance, and the proposed changes to date really focus on transportation projects. Their groups are working through the definition of maintenance and construction, what should be bid out. For example, if the road is greater than a quarter mile, if it's more than $200,000, and cities must bid that out. That's what one issue that the group was working on. The AGC is looking for standing to sue cities. The League doesn't support that, neither does its members. Raising fines for violation, it's currently $5,000 in statute. Talked about a tiered approach, first, second, and third violation. And going back to the definition of construction and maintenance, they wanted to include chip slurries and other types of seals into the definition. And so although nothing's been agreed, the groups are making progress and are working with the bill sponsor to introduce legislation. The protection of military facilities. The city supports all efforts that seek legislation to protect military facilities and work against any legislation that might threaten the future of Luke Air Force Base. In addition, in 2003, I believe, West Valley Communities funded a contract with O'Brien and Associates to assist in keeping Luke Air Force Base off the 2005 BRAC, the Base Realignment and Closure List. That was successful, and through a new RFP process, the firm Hayek and Fix was retained in December to continue work on issues that are critical to Luke. The team has been engaged in the practice of installation, promotion, protection, and enhancement for over 15 years with an impressive track record of success in the 2005 BRAC round. And they recently were in Arizona in December gathering information for the purposes of developing a strategic plan for action. And they will be returning next month to update the partners, and staff will keep council updated on that effort. State shared revenues. The League is examining a proposal that would dedicate all state shared revenues for public safety. And this proposal could conceivably preempt the manner in which the city utilizes its state shared revenues. It's currently in a working group. The governor hasn't taken a position on it yet. The League has changed the draft to include public safety, to include police, fire, emergency, courts, and prosecutors. It also includes, the League is suggesting to include a hold harmless provision that would retain state shared revenues at 15% of state income tax, or an amount that's equal to what was estimated to have been collected in future years had there been no tax cuts in 2006. But this is kind of a work in progress. Tomorrow, in fact, there's a meeting with the city managers to further discuss this issue and develop a stronger proposal, and staff will keep mayor and council updated on that issue. Finance legislation, it's very early in the process. On Friday, I attended a meeting at the League, and they reviewed 20 to 30 bills related to finance, and a lot of them are introduced. They haven't been assigned to committees. They really don't pick up traction until they have. But just to give you an idea of what's currently out there, HCR 2018 and 19, they eliminate property and income tax, which are the primary sources of the state. It doesn't really address how the state will continue to operate. It doesn't explain the impacts to the local communities. The intent is to pass a resolution in both the House and the Senate, and to get the issue on the ballot for 2008 general election. But like I said, it's very early, and these bills haven't been assigned to any committee. Also, there's a HB 2508, city tax incentives. Basically, it states that cities cannot offer tax incentives to businesses to locate or relocate in a retail business in the city. and cities in violation are subject to a penalty equal to the amount of the incentive, but just kind of keeping tab. These were kind of thrown out, and there's the whole litany of issues, and just to give you a sense of what's out there, and as they kind of work their way through the process, staff will keep council informed. Another priority is adequate funding of 911. Just Phoenix actually introduced a proposal to restore the funding of for the 911 program and address the graduated reduction in tax, and the city supports the efforts to address the 911 funding needs. County islands and fire districts, lastly, in the last session, a bill was introduced that basically said that Gilbert had to provide fire service to some of the county islands in the city limits. It was ruled unconstitutional by the Arizona Superior Court, and there is a proposal out there that basically tries to address this fire service in county islands throughout the state. So there's a working group that's been assigned to take a look at this and to make sure that it limits the liabilities to cities and recovers the cost of providing the fire service. So that's just a sense of what's some of the issues that are out there, and be happy to answer any questions. Larry Pike's in the audience as well.
Let me go to the public first. Okay. Any comments or questions from the public? Could I have a... No, not before that.
No.
Could I have a motion, ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please?
Council will consider adopting Resolution 07-1116 to be proactive and involved in the state governmental decision-making processes directly affecting the city legislative priorities identified in the City Council Action Form Report and the Arizona League of Cities and Towns legislative priorities, and providing for an effective date.
Could I have a motion?
Motion to accept Resolution 07-116 as read by the clerk.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Scott and a second from Vice Mayor Cavalier. Open for discussion. We'll start with Councilmember Holland.
The state shared revenue, Mario. I know that we weren't getting a lot of money, but I think we had already pretty much said what we were going to do with it, and I don't know how that would affect us if they decide to put it all towards public safety. I was just curious about what we had slated it for.
Want me to take that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, of all the cities in the state, only 4 actually spend less on public safety than, how do I say that?
Less than
No. We, for example, every city's getting, say, 15%. All but 4 cities are paying more for public safety than that 15% already. So there's only 4 cities which would actually have to come up with additional funds and therefore lose some of their state shared revenues. The point really being made when the mayors met on this was that it has virtually no practical effect on us, but it does have an effect from the standpoint it's a governmental agency trying to take one of our responsibilities away from us. So and another issue is the fire union has already gone to the state Speaker of the House and probably the Senate and has already crafted a bill that would do exactly what they want, and that is to demand that 15% all of state shared revenues go to public safety. And so it's sort of in the political arena. I don't think anybody's upset by any aspect of this right now, but the concern by several of the mayors, certainly the ones I respected, was don't take away from us a responsibility that is truly best handled by the city. But however it's voted, I don't think there's going to be hard feelings. Yeah, Councilmember Souza?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question will be directed to Mr. Pike. Any of the transportation bills that are going through the Senate and the House, do any of them contain any provision to reimburse the 3 cities that are forwarding money for the expansion of I-10 that we've been denied reimbursement for?
Oh, Mayor, Councilman, a lot of the proposals currently being discussed at the legislature, there are some bills to address reimbursement to cities, but at this stage, a lot of the discussion is rather sort of theoretical. There are competing proposals from the governor and the Republican legislators on highway construction acceleration. The governor has a plan, as Mario alluded to increasing highway user bond financing and capture about $400 million. And the Republicans have a competing proposal having to do with the rainy day fund. But I know Representative Nelson is running a bill, 2562, if memory serves. And we're a little bit early in the game. Senator Blendu has co-sponsored that. And the language is rather brief, but that's one example where there is a bill that would provide for some reimbursement for the stand part of DOT.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Scott?
Where are we going with this 911 and the revenue to support it?
You know, it's pretty early, and it's being circulated for comment, and so there's a working group that's been assigned to fleshing that out. Perhaps Larry has some more information.
Mayor, Councilman, this issue was raised last year. The city of Phoenix had taken the lead on this and met with Senator Martin. I don't know the history intimately, but I know that the 911 fund years ago, when the legislature was looking at a structural deficit, had conducted basically a fund sweep from the 911 fund, and I believe it was $15 million. And I talked to the city of Phoenix this week about that, and Sandra Carpenter, one of their contract lobbyists, is talking to Senator Harper about replenishing the 911 fund and addressing some of the shortfalls with that. And I plan on speaking with her about efforts to do that during the appropriations process.
So in other words, that ought to be increased, and it ought to be made more efficient than it is, rather than taking funds away from it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I hadn't finished
Sure.
the question yet. When you speak to Senator Harper, did you say was supporting this? Would you also get some information with regard to 811 and whether the state is going to move in that direction, which would decrease the significantly communication for emergency calls?
I will, Councilman. Absolutely.
That's communication, that's just information.
Chief Gaylord.
Urgent calls, I suppose.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, Councilmember Scott, one of the previous to some legislative action that took the funding source for the 911 system away, local governments in the operation of their PSAP wouldn't have to shell out dollars to upgrade their systems and add equipment as they grew and so forth. And so the legislation is attempting to put back into place that more regional and statewide oversight and funding, so that as communities grow or as they age, simply have to update that equipment. That doesn't become a local issue. Technology is too large of an issue to be dealt with at the local level. So we're simply trying to restore the previous funding mechanism that was in place.
I saw you back there, and then you disappeared. I was going to address the question to you, and then you must have moved up here. But what about 811? Do you know anything about that?
I'm not familiar with any dialogue currently going on as far as 811 or an alternative, method to defer 911 calls to a more business line. It's being done nationally in spots, but locally I'm not familiar with that. Chief, are you?
No.
Let me add a little clarity to my comment I made. At the mayor's meeting on this issue of state shared revenue going entirely to public safety, all the cities were listed, and I can't remember the numbers. But if you take what we as a city would receive in state shared revenues, that number we actually are paying in excess of 300% for public safety. Really? So we're way over that. In fact, we're one of the 10 top cities for public safety contributions, as I recall.
In terms of percentage.
In terms, yes. And many of the cities are well over 100%, but we were over 300%. Okay, you good?
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, then could I have a vote, please? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Scott?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Antoniak?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now consider receiving the 2005-2006 annual audit report. Larry Lang.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will keep my comments brief this evening. What I would like to do in this process first is I'm going to give an overview of the audit report, specifically on the comments. I'm going to ask Teresa Sims, our controller, to come up and give you an overview of the financial aspects of the financial statements. Chuck Goodmiller, the partner from Henry & Horn, is here to answer any questions you also may have, but we will keep our comments brief and allow you to answer questions. In my comments, I'm going to refer to the last 3 pages of the audit report that you received, starting on what would be page 129 if it was numbered. And what those 3 pages are the auditor's report on internal accounting controls. As you may recall, over the past couple of years, we've had a number of comments from the auditors. They continue, these comments in both quantity and intensity continue to decline significantly. We're down now to a couple of items that they've indicated in there that are material weaknesses. One of these involves a staffing issue within the Community Facilities District, and that has been resolved. The other issue involves internal accounting controls with 2 people on staff, 1 or 2 people, and we're working through those over a period of time. And the other letter that was handed out to you separately, it's dated October 30th to the City Council and management. It's called the management letter. It is about 4 pages and outlines several comments, not necessarily material for purposes of financial reporting, but items that the auditors believe warrant our consideration for improvement. This list of comments has also reduced significantly, and the last part of this letter is actually devoted to comments in previous audits that have been removed. The other items that are included within these lists are all in the process of being addressed. If they have not been addressed, we're very comfortable with these comments. I'm very pleased with where we are in the status of these audits. In the short period of time that we've done these audits, we've made a lot of progress, and so I view all of this as very good news and constructive comments to help us. With that, I'd like to ask Teresa Sims to come up and discuss the financial report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I would like to present a financial report for the City of Goodyear for the fiscal year 2006. And as Larry alluded to earlier, Chuck is here. If you have any specific questions, I'm going to put him on the hot seat. The City of Goodyear has received an unqualified opinion, and what that means is that the city did not have any material misstatement during the audit. Henry & Hahn did not uncover anything material. In other words, we found ourselves with a clean opinion, which is a good thing. The city is in strong financial position to take on the challenges of this and future years. Right now, we have in our general fund a unrestricted fund balance of $51.6 million, and overall, we have unrestricted cash of $93.5 million. The one thing that I'm really proud of is this year we implemented online banking, and because of that, it really helped with the city's cash management. We were able to earn income on our investments of $5.2 million, which is $4 million greater than last year. Today, As a matter of fact, I just finished running the numbers on the cash, and we have $94.4 million in the bank as of today. So I think the city is doing pretty well.
How much did you say?
94.5 million as of this afternoon
In cash.
in cash. Cash and investments.
You have a comprehension of that?
City center.
So I think we're doing pretty good.
All right.
Any questions?
How did it get so high so fast, I guess? We were in the high 20s, I thought.
Yeah, let me address that because that is a very, very good question. The $94 million that Teresa's referring to includes unspent bond proceeds for capital projects that we have set aside to be spent. It includes special project monies in the development impact fee funds. The general fund balance at this time, at June 30th, was about $51 million. But of that $94 million that was in this cash balance in our 2006-2007 budget, if you look at the sources and uses, the beginning fund balance that we showed was about $93 million. So we have projected that as part of our spending plans.
If I could ask another question.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, are we talking about $51 million of uncommitted funds?
No, sir. We are talking about $51 million of unspent funds as of June 30th. Some of those were committed either for projects from the previous year that were not completed, but in most cases were also committed as part of the budget process and the capital improvement plan process for this year. A few months ago, when we talked about overall the health and the budget of the city, and we talked about the various sources of money, we did talk about approximately $3 million of fund balance that was available from the previous year. That is an amount that I'll hold to today. Actually, I'd round it up to $5 million that is available that has not been encumbered for any purpose. And we will bring forth that as part of the budget process.
Okay. Can I maybe restate that in about 10 words, what I just heard?
Yes, sir.
51 million of unspent in the general fund balance, of which 5 million is unrestricted and unallocated and not budgeted.
I would agree with that, yes.
So 46 point X million is budgeted, accounted for, has projects being built, just checks haven't been written.
And the 20 million that you referred to is a part of that 46, but the other 26 million is specifically earmarked for spending.
Still back at 5 million that has not been budgeted,
That is correct.
that we will be looking at it in terms of as a surplus at the end of the year?
We will be looking at, in terms of the capital projects that we reviewed in the November retreat and how all of those get funded. The presentation, as you'll recall, I believe it was October or November, actually it was about a week or two before the council advance, we did a presentation that outlined several sources of money. One of those sources was the $2.4 million remaining in the revolving fund, subject to city council discretion. That money is earmarked for future years for the I-10 widening and for the stadium. The second source we had was the $4.2 million, which was state shared revenues that we included in this year's budget, but did not specifically allocate at the time we adopted the budget for any specific purpose. We have subsequently allocated a portion, but not all of that money. In addition, at that time, we talked an additional fund of what I estimated at that point in time to be approximately $3.2 million, which is the number that you're referring to with this report. That number would show at $5 million.
And how much is in the rainy day fund?
The $20 million is in the rainy day fund.
No commitments against it.
That is correct.
So we got 5 million uncommitted and 20 million in the rainy day fund.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I'm not sure where we are in this subject right now. Have you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There we go.
I ask a question?
Okay, any comments from the public? Okay, we'll get to that, Councilmember Scott, in 1 second.
Okay.
Could I have a motion, please, to consider receiving the 2005-2006 annual audit report? That's all we're doing?
Right.
Is receiving it. Okay. Motion from Councilmember Souza, second from Councilmember Antoniak. Open for discussion. Councilmember Scott?
Yeah, I'm a little confused here. Looking at all of our capital improvement projects, a lot of them haven't even been started yet. They're in dreamland yet. Above and beyond that, we have $5 million in surplus money here, or we have...
Not, the projects that you referred to that are not funded, that are in
They're not.
dreamland,
Yeah.
they are not accounted for.
Thank you.
And so that $5 million is really trying to be spread amongst several $100 million in projects that we're trying to find funding for.
Thank you, Larry.
How about the city center?
And the 4.7 million that we recently, that's not part of the 5 million.
No, that is correct.
Councilmember Souza?
I had several concerns about the letter that we received from Henry Horn, the auditors, and you pretty much satisfied me, and they were on the CFDs, the comments they made about CFDs, and I understand that these have been ongoing, but we're catching up, and they will be rectified probably within the next year or so. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're working feverishly on the accounting records becoming current as we speak, whereas in the past, we waited until 2 weeks before the auditors were coming to try to do a whole year's worth of books. We're moving the right direction.
Now, according to the
Procrastination.
Reprioritization.
And the auditors do commend the finance department for tremendous cooperation, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Let's follow on that. When do you expect it to be current on all your financial accounting?
The city funds, we are current on, as of now. Our accounting records are current, and they have been current for quite some time. And in fact, that was what Teresa was referring to, that allowed us the opportunity to manage our cash considerably better by having those accounting records sooner. In the CFDs, we are bringing those specific records more current. It's been run a little bit more like a checkbook than it has been of recording all of them in accounting records. The transactions have all been accounted for immediately, but the accounting records have not been updated. The general ledger has not been updated as currently as the auditors and I would like to see.
Thank you. Councilmember Antonio?
Sorry, you may have said this, but I'm going to ask you. So, not as often as you would like to see. Be more specific. Do you look to make sure that it reconciles within a 30-day period, just as general practice, or?
Absolutely, we are quicker than a 30-day period where our accounts are reconciled. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. We'll now move to information. Thank you, Larry. Thank you. Staff summary of follow-up actions? No. Any council member wish to inquire directly to staff on any issue? Councilmember Antonio.
Yeah, just based on our last conversation that we just had, it was related to the budget in terms of, and I know we're going to get into the budget here shortly, but I sure would hope that we're not trying to figure out come July 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, whatever it is, right before we go on break and approve a budget with what to do with $5 million that's unallocated and unencumbered. No? Okay. I know everybody else was probably thinking that way, but I want to make sure that
Should be our biggest problem.
you all understand.
I've already passed a no commitment.
We go through months and months, and I got to tell you, I mean, I think there's 3 slides. There's the budget, there's the money we've spent, and there's the money we haven't spent. If you can show me those 3 slides at the end of the day instead of the 450 or 500 I'll see between now and July.
A little cheat sheet would be helpful.
The general public comes to our website and wants to look up the financial health and well-being of the city. 3 pictures. How much money we got in the bank? How much is being spent and budgeted? And how much isn't budgeted? I mean, to me, it's
No one's ever asked me that.
that simple. Maybe that's why I don't manage the checkbook at home, but it's that simple.
Okay. Before we adjourn, the council will now move into a CFD meeting. And anybody object to doing that immediately? Okay, so don't mind us. Just if you need to leave, you can leave now, but we will start up the CFD meeting. This meeting is adjourned.